Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Now this is just another one of the videos in the T9 Battleship series. Now part of the whole thing that you're going to see here is this is actually me voice overing this particular video. It took quite a while to make and I'm not really 100% set up to record videos all the time at the moment. There's quite a bit of echo. I allowed the messages which showed up to show up in my video because they're absolutely harmless. It's open to everybody. Those are public servers. If you go through to RAMBO's channel on his podcast, you will find everything that you want on that particular page. So you can actually jump into his Discord. Now, in terms of what I am doing right here, I'm actually just going through a T9 Battleship build. Now, I do remember what I did, so I'm going to be able to give you a little bit more on the entire issue. So obviously we're going through with the next one in the series for T9, and it is the Apocalypse T9 Battleship. Now part of it is this year has 8 high slots, 3 mid slots and 6 low slots. It also has a 3x3 in rigs and 2 drones. So here's everything that you need to know about it. It is a much heavier tank and a much slower version of the Oracle. Now the Oracle 2 is the one that came out with T9 as well, and considering that you have the Oracle 2 and you have the Apocalypse, you actually have 2 very big options in terms of actual power. Now I know that this isn't the best way to say things and it isn't going to be the very best of any content that I've given you, but here's the reality behind it. When it comes to this ship, you're going to get a chance to actually develop things that you wouldn't normally have developed. And I don't even know how to say this properly because it's going to be a little bit difficult. You see, since it's an Amar ship, it also is it also is an armor tank, right? So since it is an armor tank, you have to go through it with a little bit extra and a little bit more finesse when actually tanking it out. Now it has an overall 69,000 defense. I did compare it to its T10 counterpart later in the video, but nonetheless I'm just going to go through a few things that I have seen. So when it comes to this T9 Apocalypse, you're going to notice that it is much weaker than its T10 variant. I said 8 weapons. It has 7 weapon slots. Now the 7 weapon slots is exactly the same as the Oracle. The difference between the Oracle and the Apocalypse uses 100% capacitor need. The Oracle only uses 50%. So mainly that's the reason why it isn't featured in things like my collaboration. And on that note, the collaboration is one of the things that has taken me so much of time. Now you will be getting the actual build videos. You'll be getting the content from myself and RAMBO, along with Havoc, Eternal Echoes. All 4 of us were in that chat and we had a blast of a time. Eternal Echoes had myself, Havoc, the 3 of us were in the conversation most of the way, and then RAMBO joined and the conversation just went crazy. Obviously we need to filter out some of the comments, we need to censor up the videos, but that is what's taking me so long because we did lose track of my standard PG rating in terms of how I do my videos. So since we didn't use PG, I just went ahead and I shot over everything in that there with cuts. Now cutting out small little segments means that you're going to get these little snippets in between where there isn't a good enough filler. So you're going to see that there's going to be segments like that there. The second thing is I've been working on the intro and the outro to that video because there's so many of us involved in this entire collaboration. Even those who aren't directly taking part in this phase could take part in the next phase, or they could take part in the series which comes a month in the future, or they could come out with a video they want made and use the collaboration to get it done for them. And that's the beauty of it. The collaboration is made for players to get together and make these unbelievable builds. So yes, those are the types of things that you can expect from the collaboration crew and myself. And in case you're wondering why I'm not worried, because I did explain this in this video. I actually explained quite a bit more in the video itself when I was first trying to record. Now I'm really sorry about the no voice on the original video. I am replacing it with this video, so you will see that it's a 1-for-1, it's an instant swap. Now, one other thing to note when it comes to all of this apocalypse and all the T9 battleships, we don't have enough skills for them to compare to any lower class ship. This T9 Apocalypse is an amazing ship, right? With the test server, we can see how good it can get, but in the real life server, it's not that grand. Number one, our research is insignificant. We don't have those 35% boost to our grids, 35% extra capacitor. So at the moment, the Apocalypse is just a long range fighter. And with the way that I would build this Apocalypse, there are several things that fall out when it comes to building it up. And the first problem is, because of its slowness and the fact that it has the Oracle to compete against, it's the exact same firepower, it's just cheaper, longer to lock onto, and all around better for the Oracle. As for the Apocalypse, it's the fastest lock you can get. If you run micro warp drive to try and evade the range, you're more than likely going to get caught, because just about everything can catch you at the moment. You don't have enough bonus to command to actually circumvent that loss. And if you have enough command, you likely can't use any lower class ships, or if you have lower class ships learned and you have that, you don't have the weapon learned. So you're losing effective DPS. So that is why I don't really like this ship at the moment. And as I'm saying, it is just for the moment. In the next 4 weeks, things will change. And then in 5 weeks from then, things will change again. So this is how it's going to go. In 4 weeks' time, everybody is going to start hitting the level 5s for whatever they want for battleships or for the weapons. And once this all goes in, you're going to get these powerful weapons. And when the weapon systems reach those levels, that's higher accuracy fall off, higher optimization. All of this makes a massive impact to how you can fight. So that is the number one reason why I don't recommend getting the Apocalypse until you're about 2 to 3 weeks into T9, and I don't suggest you using it till you're about 4 to 5 weeks past that point. So about 8 weeks in, it's going to be a good ship. You can use it long range, you can use it close range brawler, it's going to be fine. The fits can be slightly different for the ship, to be honest, but right now if you use it as a brawler, these are all the problems. Your ship is incredibly slow. Anybody who wants to hit you is simply going to fly at you as fast as possible, get under your guns, and stay under your guns, because lasers have incredibly low fall off. So the moment they get under 5Ks, they're going to circle you like crazy. Obviously, you could deploy large newts, large NOS. That is something you can do. It obviously will help you a bit, but they could also deploy similar strategies. For example, if you go up against a brawler Naga, he's going to be applying DPS to you that is meant to strip your ship down. And since you are an armor tank, your shield is going to go very quickly, but when he starts taking out the next phase into your ship, he's going to hit your armor. It's going to be the slow tick, which is actually hitting you very hard, and every time you heal, you're still not healing enough. You're going to need excess bonuses. You're going to need mid-slot help for healing, in which case those same NOSes that you're using to sustain your cap are going to fall out, and if they NOS you back, you're in trouble. So that was one of the things that you had to note when it came to particular the T9 Apocalypse. Now in the next minute or so, I will start getting to the weapons, but here's the overall. It has a 13,000 megawatt power grid. It's 131 meters per second, and that's its flight time. Now with all of that, it is a really powerful ship. Here are some of the things that you need to know when it comes to deploying it. The 13,000 megawatt power grid isn't really all that effective when it comes to lasers. Now the reason for that is lasers are rather large. Pulse lasers are about 1065 megawatts per pulse laser, and when it comes to the next class of laser, which is going to be beam lasers, they're about 1255 megawatts a laser. That means effectively for the 7 weapon slots on the ship, you are going to fill out most of your cap. You are literally going to fill out over 9,000. I know that there's a Dragon Ball Z line, but over 9,000 of your cap just putting in weapons. So you have to understand that with all of these aspects of the ship, there are tons of weaknesses. Okay, moving down one level. The next thing to note about the ship when it comes to it is mid slots when you're playing it on the long range are pointless. If you are using mid slots to attack, let me just give you the example, right? You decide you're going to use a target painter. Target painter's effective range with accuracy fall off is about 97 kilometers for the highest level. Same for tracking computer, guidance disruptor, sensor dampener, everything falls off at that level. So if you decide you're going to fight someone with this apocalypse with the max range you can possibly use for a long range fit, you're going to be sitting somewhere close to 130 kilometers. Now that is a massive range for you to have just starting with this entire fight. Okay, now let's move on to the next thing that falls into the class for this particular type of ship. Now for those mid slots, you're obviously not going to be running those large pieces. You're going to see how quickly I move through the next section. Okay, this is where I made my first mistake. I'm looking at the T10. Now I did say I look at the T10 in between. As you can see, I look at it 8x4x7. So it is improved quite a bit, and 97 overall HP. So it made it look like this was an incredible ship, and I was like, but I thought it only had 7 weapons and 67,000 defense. Okay, as you can see, I got back on. I double checked my grid. That's because even though I have checked the build several times, I do just double check the grid to make sure I haven't made a mistake. As you can see, there's 2 apocalypse here right next to each other, and I could easily mistake the apocalypse strike for the regular apocalypse and give you a build for the apocalypse strike and miss out the regular apocalypse. That's how bad things can get. So let's move down to the pulse lasers. Now I'm about to open it. As you can see, 1067 megawatts. Now, as I said, I don't recommend this here for your build. There's a simple reason. Close range means you're slow, you're sluggish, you're an easy target. Most ships are going to simply blast right through you. And if you try to counter them with your mid slots, let's say for example you decide to take on a Drake. The Drake can drop into the lowest range orbit around you, drop his micro warp drive, his engine, all types of defense basically, and circle you at 10 or 5, and all you're gonna do is miss, glance, miss, glance, miss, glance, miss. And the weapons are gonna fire, you're not gonna stop it. His drone is gonna attack you non-stop. He is gonna run out of power if you're draining him, but he doesn't have to worry about you at all. Your 2 drones aren't gonna touch him in the range that he's in, because your drones are gonna be highly ineffective. And if your drones are troubling him, he can simply blow up your drones and then blow up your ship. So that is the whole reality of why this is so dangerous. And you might be thinking, yes, big drones have big power. Yes, they do have considerable amount of DPS, but that's not going to work. So let's go down. Alright, so here's it, the beam lasers. Now the beam lasers are 1255 megawatts. Considering that you're going to be putting 7 on the ship, that's going to close it up to the 900 mark. It's actually 78.5. That is around the range of what the power is on the ship. Now I know that it doesn't seem that high, but here's the reality. Oh no, wait, it's 8,750 plus, right? I'm just leaving it as close as I can get with perfect maths. So everything that's going to happen at this point is going to be you using this long range with that heavy power grid. And I'm looking between the two, I'm double checking, I'm showing you the power grids, and I'm basically explaining that if you went with the small ones, you can do whatever you want with your low slot. If you go with the big ones, your low slot is really, really limited. You only have something like 4,000 megawatts. If you went double armor wrap with 1 hardener, you would be 3 slots down and you'd only have 2,000 megawatts. If you throw in a micro warp drive, more than half your grid is finished and you only have about 500 megawatts for 1 slot left on your ship, and it will go to weapons. So that's why it's so dangerous to use those big fields on the ship. So just be very careful about how much of power grid you have. Remember, it will increase with time. Considering how large the power grid is, when you add in that 35%, it's going to shoot it through past the point of 3,500. It's going to be about 4,200, 4,300, somewhere in that range of extra power being added to the grid. But once you have high enough engineering. But defense is king if you're going to go for the close range, so you're going to need defense upgrades. Okay, so moving on from that fact, let's talk about the drones. Now you have two drones that go on the ship, and you can use the sentry drones. But remember, the catch to a sentry drone is you can only open fire to someone within your range of drone control. So if someone decides to attack you and they enter into 36 k's off you, you can actually shoot them with the sentry drone. But if they are, say for example, within range of the drone but not within your range, you can't shoot them. There's nothing you can do at that point. Okay, so for these builds, I generally recommend, if you're going for that long of a range, to use the long range sentry gun for as long as possible. If anything tries to run at you, you can always use it to snipe them from the back. Okay, so from here on out, I'm going to be explaining the entire build. So with those 7 large weapons, you have that 7,800 plus in terms of weapon power grid used. Now we're going to stop over there with 8,750, and we're going to consider that remaining 400 and however many extra is left. I'm omitting a lot of that power grid. So let's go through this as we go through to the next part. The next thing to think about is the mid slots. So if you are going to go play the ranged foot, which is the best foot to use with it for the time being, you are going to put onto your mid slots a cap booster, a group cap booster, a group armor repairer, and a group armor repairer. Now you might be wondering why double group armor repair. It's going to help you keep up that tank for the particular build I'm about to give you. It's also going to augment your ability. Now you go large for all of those pieces of equipment for the amount that they give per recharge. Now that is it for the mid slot. And in terms of drones, you choose your drones as you wish. I'm not going to give you a particular choice that works the best. Sentries do have quite an advantage when it comes to deploying them right. But if you deploy them wrong, they can be the death of you in combat. Okay, moving on to the low slots. Now, I haven't yet reached low slots in here, and I'm not going to show every single thing in low slots. For the time being, when you jump in with the ship, using a micro warp drive is too risky. As I said, micro warp drives are 1,500 megawatts on the power grid, and the last thing you want is to lose your power the moment you start combat. So instead of running the micro warp drive on the ship, I would change it out to the following build. Right, so for your first low slot, you will deploy a armor repairer. Right, one large armor repairer, that's 1,000 megawatts gone instantly. You have just over 3,000 left on the ship. The next thing you're going to do is an adaptive armor hardener. I am a little bit ahead of my video, but I do have a reason for beating the video's time. So that's what you're going to deploy, and that is going to change the entire format of your tank. Remember, your mid slot is helping your tank. Your weapons are also draining your cap quite fast. So if you activate anything with your weapons, you will deplete that capacitor much faster. Okay, moving on. The next thing to worry about in terms of your ship is going to be the next few slots. So you have a total of 4 slots open. Now you're going to go to weapon upgrades. You're going to look at the heat sinks. You're going to purchase 2 C-type heat sinks, and you're going to purchase 2 target control computers or tracking computers. Now with that particular fit, you have this access range. Okay, there you go. I'm already starting to look at it in the video. Now with that, you have this nice range for your weapon, and you can use it at long range, but you don't have any speed to help you. So if anything small comes, you're counting on your drones to take them out. So obviously keep at least one change to medium drones or small drones, to actually save you when it comes to combat, because you don't want to have to face them brute head on for a simple fight. Okay, moving on from there, there is one or two other things that you want to really put some focus on when it comes to these particular ship builds or their ship fits, and that is your power grid and your engineering. Now when you go to engineering, this is simple: extend the range as far as possible. You're counting on your research to give you DPS. If you don't have any DPS, range is still better, because the further out you can stay, the better it is for your ship when waves spawn. The next thing which is important to it is when it comes to the engineering grid, since you're not running a prop mod, 1 auxiliary thruster and 2 semiconductor controls. Now I know that capacitor control circuits are very useful on these ships, and you could obviously replace the semiconductor control with the capacitor control circuit, which will reduce the time it takes to recharge your cap. But this is everything you need to know about reducing that time. This ship has a lot of cap, right? And bringing down the time means you're going to get a big advantage. But you want a larger amount of cap on the ship, because they can stay stable for quite some time, unlike the lower class ships. They also can drain very fast if you haven't researched your weapon or researched your ship class enough for combat. So there is a strong warning when it comes to them. Okay, so now for the big announcements. We have completed the collaboration series, and I have a total of 10 videos that have my particular perspective within them. I do have other videos from the builds for Eternal and Savat, but you're not going to see all of them, right? I do have some videos from Savat, but I'm not really going to put it out, because he did a nice beautiful live stream of our discussion and he put it out on his channel, and he followed a simple format where he talks about the build. Now that was the whole idea, to give content creators more content, and there's 3 reasons to it. Bear with me, I will explain exactly why I did things like that. Number 1, we want to create more flow to all of our channels. We want you to have a chance to see where we went, what we did, and we want you to have a chance to actually understand how we came up with these builds, because tons of people will go and ask you to make a build and see how it works and see how it theoretically works. We are about to test out builds that we made as a group, and we're going to test it out on the test server with maximum allowance to our current level in the regular game. So here's everything that's going to go wrong, and I can guarantee you from the start. We overcompensated for the loss of power. We overcompensated for our power grid. We undercompensated for firepower. We overdid it with defense. Battles are going to be too long and too tanky. Some battles are going to be way too fast and way too easy. Other ships are going to run too much of a distinct advantage to other ships, and things like that are going to show up and pop up in this entire sequence. Now I know that all of you are the very best for being our supporters and subscribers. A major thank you to everybody who supports us, likes the videos, comments, goes along with everything. And thank you to everybody who saw my video without audio and told me. I fixed it up immediately. And thank you to everybody who took part in the collaboration. Whether or not you were part of the group videos, it is a massive thank you. Thank you for everything that you put in. Thank you for helping me with this major piece of work. And hopefully in the future, when we extend